it was really crazy when people say, we are doing games. Do you know how to code games? Do you know how to do this? Do you know how to do that? Why will you tell me you're doing games? It's really, some people would even till now tell you, I don't even understand what you guys are really doing,
Yeah, I totally understand.
Do you remember the song we learned at Ethiopia? Yeah, and that was our first meeting, right?
Yeah.
There was this song Bob taught us. Was it Bob? No, Roy Kizilo. But I can't remember. Anyways, so how are you? How are you? It's nice seeing your beautiful face again. So I don't really need to
Thank you.
so anymore, like any longer. You know me, I know you. So what was it like meeting me the first time? Huh?
I don't really remember, but I remember one of the things that we did. We were taking pictures randomly and we're trying to do something like a monument, and people was starting laughing at us, like, you guys, that's dangerous. And it was like crazy. Yeah.
I remember I probably will look for that picture anyways and put it here. And
I
the
have
picture
them.
was you're safe. So like it was really a deep one. For me, I think we met first time in Ethiopia. Yeah, when we had this workshop going on and all. And I came into the space and I saw everyone was like, what? How do I fit into the space and all?
Yeah.
And then a whole lot of bright minds. Then there was you, Rahma. Like you had this presentation and you were talking about it. It was this group task that we had, and then you had to talk about what your group did. And then the way you were presenting it, I would have expected like a whole lot of maybe not getting things done or just wanting to be in the corner, but no, you're like always there, like in the space. You're just always wanting to be like at the forefront. Let's do this. You had this spirit to coordinate things and all. So that was like really impressive for me. That's why I was like, Rama, you are one major person.
Thank you.
So,
yeah, that's a really nice experience, I guess. And I think as we're actually moving on in years to come, we'll continue having this kind of relationship to make sure that we also boost one another, build each other's capacity, and giving each other motivations as well. So, how did you get into game and creative industry?
A friend of mine would say it all started in the year June. Well, I've been in the cultural industry as a cultural person, artist. I am in the theater arts. I was in the theater arts for a while. Then I went into the mainstream art line as a sound artist. So it was during this time I got into Enter Africa. So my introduction into the gaming industry would be through Enter Africa, definitely. So we started, so it was fun. It has been fun. We've done a couple of things in the games. We've done this, that in Lagos and other places, and it's been great. How are you?
And how do you see the space since you've joined up to now?
The space has been great. I see a lot of growth that is being, facilitated by stakeholders. I see a lot of spotlighting, and it's really been a level of exposure for me, just meeting people. That's like one of my favorite things anyways, meeting people, and yeah, that's why I met you. Definitely. And then it's just been fun all through, to say. And then I would say there's like a whole lot of room for growth, for collaborations, for a whole lot of things. The ecosystem out here in Africa is pretty much viable, for investments, and we have like a teeming youth population that we locked into, and then you are making things right, and you're also making money. So you want to make money,
Yeah.
So what has it been like for you to what got into the gaming industry? How have you found it so far?
I think right now it's been more interesting because I remember once we started, it was really very quiet, and I think Inter-Africa, I believe from my own perspective, Inter-Africa actually got people in the line, and then they just awake, okay, so this is something that we can always like look up to and maybe take a path for career or income generation activities. So back in 2018, I think it was very slowly. And now I think from my experience engaging with different stakeholders, different actors in my country actually, and other countries as well, I've seen a lot of potential. And now I think most of the people are more interested into this space. Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential right now and maybe in years to come.
Yeah. I am also of the same opinion. I'm also of the same opinion. That's great, Raga. Could you tell me about like your background, your work, like, how has it been from where you were coming from, till now?
You mean with my personal work and Inter-Africa?
No, your personal work.
My
and with
personal work?
Africa. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, maybe these are things that are actually a bit separate, but I think maybe we can always find a way where there's this connection. So personally, I'm working in the development sector, and this is particularly, I'm working with civil society organizations and local organizations around how we're actually empowering young people in the community in different areas, for example, leadership, livelihood, issues of SRHR, sexual reproductive health and rights, gender equality. Those are the areas I'm actually focusing on my personal work. And currently, I'm working on one of the projects where we're empowering young women in Tanzania, Uganda, and Ghana. So we are trying to help them build their social enterprises that are actually highlighting the aspect of gender equality and climate resilience. So we're training these young people. We're also taking them through the incubation stage. We're also providing resources, including funding for them to grow their businesses. So that's what we are actually doing right now. And maybe the connection comes on the integration of these young women with the program. So we actually use participatory engagement. So I think this is where game and gamification is coming in, because we're also using these kind of concepts from game to make the sessions interactive, the content more relevant to them. So that's what on the aspect of my personal work. And Inter-Africa, I believe we do game thinking, game design, gamification, and all of that. It's also connected to empowering young people, taking initiatives to create impact. But the tool that we are using is the game design, game development, and all of that. So yeah.
Sweet. That's really, really interesting. As I've said earlier, you keep fascinating, like you're this kind of superwoman. So I love that. Well done. So how has it been? What drew you now then into gaming? Because I know, yes, Enter Africa. So what drew you maybe into gaming, and how do you think participation has been since you came into the gaming line? Yeah.
I think my motivation and aspiration actually come from, I would say, from the environment that I actually grew up. Because I think my parents were trying to create an environment where I can always be curious, like trying new things and all of that. I remember my dad would give me his laptop, like playing with it, and sometimes I'll just open it, things like that, like crazy, crazy stuff. But later, when I was actually in school, so here we have ordinary secondary school and advanced secondary school. So when I was on my O level, I was actually integrating myself in other extracurricular activities. So we had these STEM clubs. So with STEM clubs, we were not doing specifically game design, game thinking, whatever, but we are doing other activities relating to STEM. For example, engineering projects, we'll do coding, robots. Those are things we're playing with. And then later, when I was actually doing most of these things, and then later I was actually introduced to Inter Africa. There's where I say, okay, so this is another opportunity, and I wanted to be different from other people. And I thought this was a great platform for me. I want to play it out. Yeah, so there's where it started. And I was like exploring new ideas, meeting new people. It actually built me up. And I was like, this is something I want to do. Yeah.
That's really great. I really love that. I really love that. It's really something, being different, like, going pushing that crazy idea, like,
Yeah,
just
and
moving away from the crowd.
You find people doing a lot of things. For example,
Mhm.
people tell you, maybe I'm just growing up seeing my parents are doctors, or maybe they're teachers. So those where I'll just draw my inspiration. So, but for me, I actually thought maybe this is the right path for me to build my professional career, and maybe it will be more benefiting than other pathways. So, yeah.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting. For me, it's also been like a journey of being different. I am from this kind of family where we have this, we are like custodians of cultural heritage. I come from a drumming family, and my father is a drummer, my grandfather is a drummer, my grandfather is a drummer. So I just thought, yeah, how do we channel these, into other stuffs, the art scene, for example, and then we were there. I I was, engaging myself with artists, going for different programs and all. And then there came the gaming opportunity. Oh, how can we invest this wealth of knowledge into the um, digital creative? It is like two different, seemingly different areas now, the digital creative and then the cultural creative. So then we started it, and small, little by little, little by little, we got it together. And it was really crazy when people say, we are doing games. Do you know how to code games? Do you know how to do this? Do you know how to do that? Why will you tell me you're doing games? It's really, some people would even till now tell you, I don't even understand what you guys are really doing.
Yeah, I totally understand.
When you say, can you code? When you tell someone I work with games, and then they will say, oh, do you know this programming language? Do you know that programming? And I say, oh, bro, I don't write any codes. I don't even know where to put it. So it's really something for me, always wanting to be different. And it was a great opportunity to get into the game industry, to try enter Africa. And I have like done stuff in game sound, even with that knowledge you have before, you just pack it along, game story, game sound, game this, game that, it's really crazy. And also it gets you to engage with people you might normally not engage with in the first instance. And I think it's pretty chill, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, Rama, you're the manager of the ecosystem there in Tanzania for Enter Africa. How has it been managing that local ecosystem? What has it been for you?
It's been a great experience. It's been a great experience. I believe I've been learning how to work with people in a very large network. Like, you know, it's very rare getting this kind of spaces to experience, but also interacting with different people, especially people coming from different backgrounds. Like, for example, with Inter Africa saying, we're working with teachers, we're working with young people, we're working with other professionals. It's very difficult sometimes to interact with people and making sure that you maintain that relation. So I think it's been a very great experience, although there's also some of the challenges that you face because when interacting with people, there's also other aspects because sometimes you might come to the table where people have different opinions with you. They have different motivations to get it. Like, yeah. But yeah, it's been a great experience like learning, engaging, and creating projects. I think throughout the time I've been working as a lead for Tanzania, for myself, one of the things that I actually built on my profile, I think it's working with these kind of projects that we've been working with in African countries. Speaking of Busara, speaking of the individual kingdoms of each country, do you know we have our animation of our own kingdom from Tanzania, like working on those
Really?
kind of things? Yeah.
You should share that. So we'll put it here, you
Yeah.
know. That's great.
Yeah,
That's
it's
great.
been a great experience, but
Mhm.
also a platform, to practice things to make yourself better and more professional. I think it's been amazing.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
I could say the same for myself as the lead here in Lagos. It's been a whole lot of experience gathering for me. You meet up with people, and it's also been a great learning curve for me. I could now relates to some ideas, to some management, what's it called? To some management skills that I hitherto didn't,
Yeah.
have before. And also the projects, like it's always crazy. When I say crazy now, I don't mean the crazy, crazy. I just mean it's always mind blowing when you work on a project. I remember the Busara project, when it all was coming together, different countries, and then we're seeing what was similar about African. How can we make Africa borderless? How can we, stuff like that? And then we came up with Busara, with the country cards and all and all. It's really sweet. Also with the digital games. I remember the one I remember vividly. We worked on these Yaba Quest here in Lagos. That was one of the game jams we had in Lagos. We had creatives from the digital industry come together and also from the cultural industry, and we did a lot of brainstorming. And then within a short period of time, we were able to create like a viable product. And sincerely,
Yeah,
it's been
it's
amazing.
really a great experience because leaving all those things behind, I think also in terms of sharing resources and things like that. For example, right now in Tanzania, what we're trying to do is reactivate the ecosystem. Like most of the people, they don't actually believe if there's a network here in the country that actually focusing on gamification, game thinking design. So now most of the people, I'll say, they're starting to see, okay, so this is an opportunity where we can always relay if ever we need any kind of support, any kind of assistance, any resources that we can actually build the capacities and all of that. So I think it's been amazing coordinating all of that and ensuring that everything is on the line.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And then we know how the bunch comes together and form a strong one instead of you having a tiny strand and then you can easily
Yeah.
break that. That's great. That's great. What are the opportunities or the challenges you've faced so far in Tanzania, definitely, there are times it's not like a very smooth ride out there. It's just you and all. So I tell us about that.
Okay, so maybe starting with challenges. I think even when we started, it was very difficult to actually mapping out different stakeholders and different actors who are actually into the creative game design sector. And I think for now, as Inter Africa, what we're trying to do is we're creating a database where we are profiling creatives in different sectors. Let's say you're dealing with a 3D art as a 3D artist, illustrator, game designer, all of those elements. We're trying to map them out and profile them as we can always share through our networks with other potential stakeholders if ever they're looking for collaborations, if ever they're looking for opportunities to interact with our people from Tanzania. So that's one of the things that we're actually working with. So we saw a challenge and then we said, okay, this is what we're trying to do. And then the other challenge, I think, in this year particularly, we tried to interact with different creators, creative industries, individuals. Most of the challenge that you hear from them is that, okay, I've been doing 1, 2, 3, but later on, I'm just losing motivations because maybe they don't have any people to get support, mentorship, and other aspects of as supporting system. I think that's also one of the challenges that in Tanzania we're currently facing. And then we also have how should I put it? Okay, so for example, we did our get together engagement with different creatives. And then one of the challenge that was mentioned, like most of these are doing these works, but again, one of the difficult aspects is monetization. Like, how do I make money? Yes, I'm doing animations and all of this, but at the end of the day, I'm not getting gigs. I'm not getting any opportunities. Like, how am I going to make myself useful in this space? How do I make money and making the sustainability of what I'm doing? So those are the challenges we are facing here in Tanzania, I would say. I think maybe even other countries, they're also experiencing the same. I've been in Uganda last year. I think those are the same songs I've been hearing. I've been in Nigeria as well, attending some other events. Those are the things you hear most of the time. So I think it's sometimes we share common challenges, but it depends on how big it is in other aspects. So those are the main, I would say, from our perspectives. And I think as Inter Africa, we're trying to create a strategy where we can support these creatives. So we started with creative get-togethers. So we are doing this in every quarter. So it's a platform where we meet, we connect to share knowledge, learning. We get to see what other challenges people are facing and see how potentially we can support them. Linking with other networks that we are working with, we know that they can provide those kind of assistance. So that's what we are trying to do. Even maybe later in a month to come, we'll start our mentorship support and coaching sessions as well for creators. Hopefully it work out and maybe be able to contribute something in the creative industry here in Tanzania.
Sweet. That's really great to hear. It's a motivation that something like that is going on out there, because definitely where there's a challenge, then there is an opportunity for you to make a change and for you to do a lot of coming around and stuff like that. That's great, Rahma. So, Rahma, do you own any video game console? Do you play video games?
Sorry, come again?
Do you own any video game console, or do you play any games?
Yeah, I play games. I used to play games. I used to play games. Yeah, but now I think, I don't know. There was a time where I lost interest. I don't know what happened, but I was really good at it. And I remember I have one friend, he's a male friend, It's like, yeah, if you get an opportunity to compete with Rahma, my friend, you're not getting out. I was like, oh, and nowadays it's not like that. I don't know where it is, but I just lost this kind of interest. But yeah, I'm still playing few games, but now I think most of what I'm trying to do is exploring different content, like board games from other people, because we are currently working on something. We're aiming to create board games for different purposes, like building capacities of individuals in companies, organizations, and things like that. So that's something that I've been trying to look what other people are doing, experiencing the mechanisms they're using, and what is actually prepared in the ground. So that's what I'm trying to do right now.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I'd say you like, I don't know if it's a sort of stereotype. Yeah, talking about stereotypes, what do you think about women in gaming? Like, what stereotypes come in when talking about women in the gaming industry? And, what do you think about? Or do you think there's a lot of inclusion for women in the gaming industry?
I think speaking of inclusion depends on the networks and entities you're actually engaged with. Because if ever I'm working with these particular people, potentially they might have their own ways of working. But I'm not sure if ever we have any systematic, a structured systematic of including women in the spaces, although some of the people are trying to do that. Most of the people, I think they're just coming by themselves, motivations, like, okay, this is what I want to do and I'll fight for it. There are a lot of stereotypes still, because, for example, nowadays, if we look in the bigger picture, the inclusion of women in the creative and game industry as well. A lot of people have been complaining. Sometimes it might not be upfront, but most of the people have been explaining some of the issues they are going through. I think there was an issue where someone needed assistance to these people, and then they were like, okay, I need some, later it comes like, okay, blah, 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 things like that. And then they're trying to take advantage of people. So I think there's a lot of stereotype and issues as well facing young girls specifically and women in this space. Yeah.
So
And other people will be like, yeah, are you doing this for real, or you're just here? Sometimes they'll feel like you don't have the capacity to work with them, to interact with them. They'll see you as, okay, you're just here. And most of the time, if ever in terms of decisions or maybe doing something, you'll never be included if you don't fight for it.
So fight for it,
Yes, because you need to believe in yourself. Like, if you're actually capable of doing something, likely you're more aware of what you are doing. So if ever I'm coming to the table, I will fight for the space. And if ever you're not creating that space, I'll create my own space to engage with you and interact with you. But most of the people, they get demotivated if ever the environment is not enabling. They feel like, okay, maybe I can just take another path. And now, or even working silently. Yeah, maybe they try to say, okay, I'll work alone. I don't want, but it's not possible working alone because you need to interact with people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge that is facing not just the African gaming ecosystem, but also like generally all over the world. Women inclusion and then it's just, and also for the women and the young girls, the ladies, stay motivated, stand your ground. You know you have this, got this. So that's it. Rama, as a form of going out, what should we look forward to, from you, coming from your ecosystem, coming from you personally?
So things that you should look forward, the database from Tanzania, if ever people are interested to see who is actually in the ecosystem here in Tanzania, then you should look forward to that. Another thing, we're working on those board games because we get an opportunity. Maybe this time, this year, we'll be able to release maybe one or two for people to test out, but also in terms of promotion. And the other thing, yeah, we're working around delivering some of the training and workshops on gamification and game thinking design. So right now we're working on this project where we're aiming to empower at least 24 young women. These are marginalized women from one of the centers we are currently having a discussion with. So we're aiming to build their capacity and see if ever that's a pathway they would like to take further.
That's really interesting. Thank you, Rahma. Thank you. So also from this end, we are also working on a lot of projects at the moment, spotlighting, creatives. We've done a couple of that in Nigeria, through blog posts, social media, and now we are expanding it all through Africa. And we are all very excited, to push this out and see how the gaming industry is in the whole of Africa. Who are those, working behind the scene, in front of the scene, back end and front end, as my developer friends will say. So, so it's really a great time to be alive, I would say. And I know that a whole lot of things will be shown out from us. So it's great, Rahma.
Going to come to Nigeria as well this year. So potentially maybe we'll see fingers crossed for that.
We'll be glad. There was this egusi and inyo I told you must eat. So don't worry, when you're here, I will make sure that is like well prepared for you. Okay, thank you. It's been a nice conversation with you, Rahma.